Hi there.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. I'm Mr. Pope, and Mr. Benet is also on the line here. I'm just waiting for the students to come in right now. And then what I'll do is uh, we'll get started, I guess. We'll perhaps get Mr. Benet to introduce you guys. Is that okay with you, Mr. Benet? Okay. And then
I can do a quick spiel if it's if it's okay.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we need probably about another couple minutes to get all the kids in here, and then we can get started whenever you folks are ready at that point. Okay? So excited.
How many students are in the class?
I have 27 that are in here all the time, and I've got a few coming in from other classes as well that are really interested in computer science, students I had previous semesters kind of thing. So pretty much a full room.
That's awesome. We like full rooms. That's awesome.
Okay. All right. I'm going to mute you folks for just a moment here, and then I'll be right back.
No problem at all.
Yeah. Stay solid. So yeah. So thanks again. Hi, Sophie. Adam, Benet. So nice to meet you. Thanks for jumping in. Hey, Cathy, of course. Thank you and Sophie for helping the other. So yeah. I won't. How about it, Cathy? I'll introduce you real quick, then I can just turn my camera off or just hide. But
sounds perfect.
Okay. Poor Mr. Pope, he's at Moncton High. I think they just announced even more portables. It's a brand new building, right? And they got something like, they might have over 10 portables there now. Something like that.
We should have 12 at the start of September.
Okay, there you go. Right? Yeah.
Adam, we've got some slides. If they end up being a little bit hard for the students to see, it won't be difficult. Yep. We'll pass them on to you and you can get them back to the class, no problem.
Yep, certainly, yep. Hey, Sophie.
Hello. Someone has just knocked on my door. I'll be right back. Be 30 seconds.
All right, folks, the bell just rang here. I think we got everybody in place. And thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate you taking this time out of your day. I know you folks are very busy with your positions and we're super excited. I might be more excited than the students. I don't know, but we'll find out. And hopefully there'll be a little time where maybe we could ask a question or two perhaps, or from the kids and have take it all in, right? So I'll hand it over to Mr. Binet, who helped organize and set all this up for us. And I'm just going to sit in the crowd and take it all in. Thank you again. Once again, it's a delight to have you here.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Pope. And I feel like I haunt Mr. Pope sometimes with various asks over the years, but I will say I have taught at Moncton High a couple of years there in my past. But I'm going to introduce our guest speakers today. So my name is Adam Binet. I'm from the Center of Excellence for Digital Innovation at the station here in New Brunswick. And part of my job is I get to work with really great partners. And so one of my partners is TechImpact. So joining us today, we have Cathy Simpson, and we also have Sophie Gadd, who are from TechImpact, and they did a lot of all the legwork for this event today. I just asked, I sent the request to them, and here we go. And we also have Sophie Gadd joining us from Introhive, so it's really exciting. I'm on the move, so I'm gonna pass right over to Cathy, I think, and I'm just gonna be in the background and watch and listen. So thanks for having us again, and over to you, Cathy.
Hello, everyone. I'm just getting things set up, so I'm going to get you to tell me if you can see my screen here in just a second. Looks good. And you can hear me okay? Are we good, Soph?
Yes.
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. So my name's Cathy Simpson. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about tech in New Brunswick and what the heck is going on. I'm going to talk a little bit about my career, and then I'm going to introduce you to our second guest speaker, Sophie, who's going to talk to her about her career at Introhive. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to first tell you a little bit about TechImpact. So I have the fortune and the pleasure to work for an organization called TechImpact. We're not-for-profit. And on the TechImpact team, there's 4 of us right now. We fluctuate based on how many projects we have on the go. But Sophie is joining us, and Sophie is a community development grad from Acadia University. She spent her first 2 years of working for a software company called Dash Hudson, and she was in the sales team, and she joined us in January. The next lady on the bottom, her name is Alex Weaver Crawford, and she's our marketing and communications manager. And she actually is an architect by trade, but has always loved all kinds of design. So she's a web designer, loves to design everything and anything, and does an incredible job on our communications. And then finally, Jacob Dunnett, and he's one of our program managers. Jacob doesn't have a tech degree, but he has his MBA, and he's been helping design all sorts of programs like a boot camp that's going on at UMB, a developer boot camp going on at UMB right now. Our focus is how can we make the tech industry and the tech workforce grow? So how do we get companies using technology? How do we get companies hiring people? What kind of skills do people need? That's where we spend a lot of our time. And we're a member-based company. So when you look at this screen, you should see companies that you recognize. So there's some really big ones there, like Deloitte and TELUS and Rogers. Those are phone companies, TELUS and Rogers are. If you eat French fries, I'm sure you've eaten McCain's Foods. If you're in Moncton, everybody knows about Atlantic Lottery. IGT is a huge company in Moncton, big software company. So these are companies that are in New Brunswick that are members of TechImpact. And we spend a lot of time together trying to understand what kind of help do they need to get more people, to get people with the right skills, and to help their businesses grow. So it's an absolute pleasure to work with these companies. But what you'll also see is there's some educational institutes. So UMB is there, NBCC is there, CCNB is there. And why would they want to be part of TechImpact? Because they want to understand what all these employers' needs are. And they want to make sure that their programs are delivering the right content so people who graduate can get it hired by some of those kinds of companies. So I want to give you a sense of what's happening here in New Brunswick. We have about 10,000 people that work in IT-related jobs. And maybe you didn't understand there were that many people working in IT-related jobs. But that doesn't mean they all work for a tech company. They might work for the hospital, or for a manufacturing company, or a construction company, or an educational company in their IT departments. So when we think about the IT workforce, it's product and software companies, it's startup companies with new ideas that involves technologies, it's consulting companies like Deloitte or EY or MNP, and then it's all of the others who hire people in their IT department. So that's about 10,000 people. The salaries and what that contributes to New Brunswick's economy is about $700 million a year. And those salaries are pretty darn good. The average IT salary is between $70,000 and $80,000, with lots of room for upward growth and more salary if you keep building your skills. If we want to look at just the tech companies, there's about 280 tech companies. And these are global, they're national, and they're smaller regional companies. So there's a whole variety, a mixture of companies and opportunities for you to go to work in the workforce. Now, so far I've talked a lot about the companies, and that's just some more logos on the top of the screen. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a lot of the colleges and universities where you can go and study all kinds of different programs, and many of them have tech programs, but you don't necessarily have to take a tech program in order to work in the tech industry or the tech workforce. What I wanted to leave you with today is that other layer where you see TechImpact, Propel, NBIF, the McKenna Institute, the government. These are organizations that are helping our economy grow. They are helping to get more talent and money for training. They're helping to bring investors who want to invest in new ideas and start new companies. So we like to call this the tech ecosystem. It's a whole combination of different types of organizations that are here to help to keep it growing. And that's, TechImpact works in that middle layer. So you're a student and you're probably thinking about, what am I going to do after high school? Well, let me tell you, if you're interested in tech, you're interested in the right space. There are lots of job opportunities. They ebb and flow depending on what's happening with the economy, but there are many job openings right now. And there are lots of skilling options. You can do 4-year degrees, you can do 1- and 2-year diploma programs, but you can also learn on your own. And there is loads of free content that's available to everyone and anyone who wants to learn technical skills. But you also might decide you want to do a boot camp. And we think of Army boot camps, short training for a period of time with a very specific goal at the end of it, maybe to go off and join the Army and go overseas on a mission or something. Well, these boot camps are very specific, shorter duration, to give you specific skills to be able to go into the workforce. So there's lots of skilling options, and there is a high need for diversity. So we want men and women, we want old and young, we want people from all over the world working on technology solutions. So I couldn't reemphasize enough how important it is for us to have a really great talent pipeline. When you think about the jobs that that are in most demand right now, it would be areas like developers, and there's lots of different types of developers. And I'm sure Sophie from Introhive would be happy to talk more about some of those different developer types. But there's also roles like business analysts and data analysts and systems analysts, and we've got software architects and data architects. We've got cloud computing and AI and machine learning and cybersecurity. There's so many different areas that you can go in, and you might build specific skills in one area that are absolutely transferable to another area. About a year and a half ago, we talked to New Brunswick businesses to get an idea on the amount of demand of skills and the types of skills they were looking for and what roles they came up with. And developer was the absolute #1 most in demand, followed by a whole variety of analysts. So this is pretty fresh data, and this is New Brunswick companies telling us what they need. So if you want to learn more about technology and the tech industry and what's happening here, TechImpact has a website called collabhubatlantic.ca. Maybe Sophie, you can put that in the chat as well. And when you go onto that site, you will see events that we have going on. If you go to the skilling area, you'll see what kind of training programs are going on. I host a podcast called Tech Talks with Cathy Simpson. There are 37 episodes on there, and you'll get to meet all kinds of different entrepreneurs and investors and tech people from universities and colleges talking about an important topic to make you interested to learn more about what's happening in the tech industry. So there's lots of content there, and that is a way for you to learn more while you're exploring what you want to do next. And again, we're going to make this presentation available, so don't worry about that. But there's other forums beyond the Collab Hub. We've got a newsletter that you can sign up to. We have events throughout the province under the Innovate MB brand, and then those are all of our social media spots. So you can find us, and we'd be happy to add you to any of our community content. So before I hand it over to Sophie, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've now worked in the tech industry just a couple months short of 33 years. And when I joined the tech industry, I had no idea that I was going to spend my life in this industry. I have my business degree from Acadia University, and I left Nova Scotia and came to New Brunswick to work at MBTEL, which was eventually bought by Bell. But I joined there at a time when it was really innovative and interesting, and I got to understand the power of technology. But I will tell you this, 33 years ago when I started, cell phones didn't exist, and neither did email. And within a couple of years, we all got email, and it took a little bit longer before we all got cell phones. But you can just imagine how busy it was and how interesting it was, because the world was opening up with technology, and then I fell in love with it. So I'm a business owner. Right now, I'm a CEO, I'm a podcaster. I coach Moncton High volleyball team for the girls. I'm one of the assistant coach there. I've got 3 children. I'm a wife. I'm pretty fortunate in the career that I've had and the type of work that I do. I started at the phone company, as I mentioned, but then in 2005, I went to a data analytics company called T4G Limited, and I had a variety of roles there. And I really didn't know what it was like to go work at a consulting company. So this was my first opportunity to go work at a consulting company. And then in about 2014, I decided I really wanted to do more work getting girls into STEM. So I started a program called Up and Go. And we've run this program 7 or 8 times. We ran it even during the pandemic. And it's focused on how do we introduce high school girls to incredible women who work in the tech industry, in science, in medicine, in engineering. And we teach them life skills and job place skills that are going to be important for them wherever they go. So I decided I wanted to be a business owner and really wanted to work on how do we get diversity in the sector. And then in 2015 and finally in 2018, I joined TechImpact as the CEO of that organization. So I've been there, just about 5 years, or just a little bit over 5 years. And MBIF is actually a not-for-profit here in New Brunswick, and I'm the chair of that board. And we give capital, we give money to startups as well as researchers who have big ideas about how they can solve problems to change the world. So when I look at my career, again, don't have my computer science background, but because I worked in some incredible companies, I really was able to bring my business administration skills, my marketing skills, my HR skills, my team skills to a technical environment. So I've been product managers, I've been in sales and sold tech products and services in countries like Brazil and Mexico and in Europe and Chile as another example. But I was able to understand, one of my superpowers, I would say, was I was able to work really well with the tech teams at understanding enough that I was able to translate that into how our value proposition worked for our products and services and how we sold them to other companies. You might be intrigued that I've got software developer team lead on my list of roles that I had. Well, I had great technical people. I was their leader. So I have been responsible for how do these software development teams operate? And that again, what an incredible opportunity to learn about business and technology all at the same time. And then at T4G Limited, through some of those roles, I became a vice president for that company and played different roles. And one, definitely, my heart is in marketing and people and culture. So was just a wonderful opportunity to work for a national technology company, but doing roles that I loved. So over the 32 years, I've had a great variety of jobs, and I can't even imagine not going into this field because of the variety that exists. And we don't just need people with technical skills. We need people with sales skills and accounting skills and community development skills and HR skills. So it's just an incredible place to work. My last piece of advice before I hand it over to Sophie. After we're here today, there's so many ways for you to learn more as you're thinking about your tech career. Meet more tech people. It's awesome today you're getting to meet Sophie, and myself. Go to industry events, visit the university and college campuses. Think about what you've learned and share it with some people. Tell them about it. Maybe they have perspectives that you might find interesting as you're thinking about your career in tech. And then follow the resources that I mentioned. I promise you, you'll learn a little bit about what's happening here. And I guarantee you, you'll be inspired to want to join this incredible space because it's so dynamic and changing all the time. And people like Sophie are going to tell you exactly what she did with a very technical career decision and education that she took. So, Sophie, I'm going to stop sharing, and it's over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Cathy. Let me share mine now. See if this works. I am not used to Microsoft Teams. Can you guys see a slide deck?
I can. We just need to get you to get it into presentation mode. There you go.
Okay, so before jumping right into this, like Cathy said, my name's Sophie. I'm actually originally from Moncton. My family actually does still live in Irishtown. So when I was growing up, people made fun of me for living in the boondocks, but that's where Moncton High basically is now. So it's definitely booming now. I am from Moncton, but I did graduate from École Sainte-Anne here in Fredericton. And when I graduated from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I instead got a few jobs, and then the job that had the biggest impact on me was I worked in Moncton at, there's a call center there for GE Healthcare. So basically GE Healthcare builds ultrasounds, MRI machines, CT machines, things like that. And the call center was in charge of hospitals would call, you'd get to schedule different preventative maintenance things, order parts for them, things like that. So that was my first kind of foray into something more technical, and I really enjoyed all the biomedical aspect of GE Healthcare. And at the same time, my husband was taking electrical engineering technology at MVCC, and all of his homework seemed very interesting. So I was like, well, I'm going to go into electrical engineering. So I joined UNB and did electrical engineering as well as a biomedical minor. They actually have an Institute of Biomedical Engineering right at UNB. So I was able to do a research internship there, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then right from university, I joined Introhive. I've been there 8 years, and it's been a great career for me. And I've seen the company go from when I joined, I was about the 13th or 14th person in the office. And now we're about 200, I think, company-wide. So it's been a big adventure. But I did want to chat a little bit to start with just UNB. So I took electrical engineering. That was my goal, was to be doing biomedical engineering. They have an institute there where they work on a lot of prosthetics, especially prosthetic hands, and they do a lot of research into movement and things like that. So that's what my interest was. And then in second year, I took a Java course and realized I want to do software. That's what I wanted to do. At that point, it would have added some extra time to my degree if I switched to computer science, though. So I decided I'd just stick with electrical engineering, but just take as many software courses as I could and try to focus at whatever I could into that area. So I did a summer research kind of internship at the Institute of Biomedical Engineering, and it was very software focused. I worked on, there was a mathematical model for predicting how people move. So if you go to reach for something, no one usually reaches in a complete straight line. You tend to curve and things like that. So it's taking that and putting it into software so we could basically do experiments without having to need any subjects to come in. I also got to create my own experiment, which was a very, very basic kind of Pong looking video game around feedback, and was able to test it on a bunch of different people, including some amputees. And that kind of rolled into, I did an independent study with them. So that was, instead of taking some courses, UNB lets you do independent studies where you get a professor to kind of work with you and you pick something that you guys can do together. So for me, it was just continuing with my experiment. I wrote a paper on it. It was super interesting, but it also made me realize that I did not want to go into research. So wanted to get a job at an actual tech company is what I wanted to do. So I did, when you are in your last year of engineering, you have to do a senior design project. So I did a Android app on my phone, which kind of gave me some credibility when I went looking for jobs. And I got hired part-time at Introhive in my 4th year. So that kind of set me up for the path I wanted, and they hired me full-time after that. I feel like I'm going really quick, but if anybody has questions, there'll be tons of times at the end to ask me things. So like I said, I've been at Introhive 8 years. For anybody who doesn't know what it is, because it's kind of a obscure thing, we have a software platform. We do customer intelligence, which is a fancy way of saying that we have really great data that allows companies to sell better. So we allow them to find new opportunities to sell to new customers, and using our data, they can also be prepared for customer meetings and be able to win those deals and actually sell. And we're also, with all the data we have, they're able to find out how they can grow their current business. So it's a lot of data that we then use to help companies with selling. When I started, like I said, we were a startup, so I got to experience kind of that startup lifestyle. It's a lot of long nights. Sometimes you'd be in the office 24 hours with somebody just trying to get something done in time for a conference and things like that. But it was something I wouldn't want to do for my entire career, but I'm glad I did get to experience it, because it was definitely nice to feel that invested in the company. So when I started, I was a developer. That's what I was for, oh goodness, I can't remember how many years, but that's what I did. And I just kept building up my skills, getting better and better. And then once we started getting bigger, we needed more managers. And I've always liked working with people. And so I kind of wanted to see what that would be like. So I became a manager at Introhive. At the same time, I was also what we call a tech prime. So that's a person who kind of tries to figure out how we're going to build the next great thing we want. So you don't just spend your time coding, but you also spend your time kind of figuring out how to do something and explain it in a way so other developers can then go do it. So did that for about 2 years, and then was promoted to a senior manager. Basically just similar sort of job. I'm still coding some, managing people. It just was managing a little bit more people and having to take a little bit more of a step back from coding and just kind of mentoring the other developers instead. And then a year ago, I became a director. So now I manage 3 teams. And my role is kind of different aspects to it. So on one side, as a director, I work on trying to make our processes better. So what can we do to allow our developers to deliver their code faster? And is there something we can implement? Like, is there a weekly meeting that would help us do this and things like that? And is there a way that we have to measure this certain metric to see if we're hitting our goals? And so I work on that part of the time. And then the other part is still doing a lot of HR, managing my direct reports. I still code every once in a while. If there's something very urgent, I get to still get my hands dirty because I do really enjoy coding. And then at the same time, I'm just mentoring a lot of people. So there's 3 teams. I've got a lot of people who design what we're going to build, and I kind of oversee that and kind of make sure we're all pointing in the same direction. So that was my kind of career pathway. The only other thing I wanted to share is that my pathway is not the only pathway. So at Introhive, we have a lot of other roles. We also, the way I went was kind of a manager pathway. We have what we call our individual contributor pathway. So people who love to code and don't want to have to manage people, they can still grow their career just as much as I did. They just have slightly different titles. So you go from a developer to a senior developer. Once you become a lead, then you're still coding, but it's usually the more complicated things that you're coding, and you're also kind of designing how things will get built. And then as an architect, you're more just coming up with overall concepts of how things should be, how the developer teams should build things, doing some kind of proof of concepts to kind of show your idea and then letting other people run with it. So we have that way, but then there's also a lot of other roles here at Introhive that people with tech backgrounds or non-tech backgrounds do, that are other forms to kind of build your career in tech here. So technical support, we have, like I said, Introhive is built on a lot of data and we have a lot of products. So our technical support people are actually they may not be coders, but they do have to learn some coding languages and they have to be able to dig into our data to answer questions that customers have. Our project managers are really the ones who are the driving force behind trying to get us to hit our targets, and then taking care of all the process around that. Like, is there a tool that we should buy that would make our lives better? Like, project management teams go and evaluate those and kind of get us to go where we're going. Product owners, they tell us what to build. They go and talk to customers. They do user research and figure out what's the next great thing that we should build, and then work with the development team to figure out how we're going to build that. Like Cathy said, analysts, we have some data analysts here who take a look at all the great data we have to come up with new ways that our customers could use it to move things forward. And then of course we have IT. We have 200 people or so employees. We need people here who can manage their laptops, make sure that we're doing everything in a secure way and pushing security updates and things like that. So just wanted to give a little overview in case people have questions about roles that I haven't had, but I can maybe speak to just because I work with people in these other roles all the time. So that was it for me. I think that leaves us plenty of time for questions.
When you look at all of the roles that Sophie talked about, we asked employers and we included every single role that she talked about. And those are particularly the area of data. As we get more and more tools to be able to manipulate that data, there are more and more roles that are getting created for people to work utilizing the data. When I graduated from high school, if you were good in mathematics, they said you should be an accountant or find someone in finance who works at a bank or teach math. And most students don't know what a data scientist is or a data architect is, but that's how much the positions are changing and evolving. And because Sophie works at a large New Brunswick software company, your organization, Sophie, has all of those, which is actually absolutely incredible. So we're done. That's our content, Mr. Pope. How do we help answer any questions that you or your students might have?
Thank you so much, ladies, for your insight and information about your career paths, of how you got to where you are today. I have a question, but I'll let the students ask questions first to see if we can, we don't want to duplicate too many. Does anybody have a question? We have a few here. Can you say it nice and loud?
How do you guys stay engaged in the workplace, especially when your goals are sometimes like a year away?
Did you guys hear that?
Perfectly.
Great.
Well, if you can believe it, this week we had a networking event that TechImpact organized along with one of New Brunswick's biggest tech companies, Mariner. They're an organization celebrating their 20th year, and an economic development agency. We had a networking event. We had 120 people there, and there were probably, of that 120, I would say 30 to 45 were university or college students or newcomers to New Brunswick who are looking for a role in the tech industry. So there are developer user groups, there are networking events like I talked to you about, and they really are geared so that students will come and learn more. And there are even high school events like Go Code this weekend, right, Adam, in Fredericton? That's for high school students. Anyone who wants to go can go, but that's a whole day tomorrow, all about, well, you can talk about it, Adam. You probably know even more than I know about it, but there are events that are going on, and that's why I'm saying stay connected to TechImpact and stay connected to Adam, because his Center of Excellence is doing things all the time. And maybe Adam, I'll hand it over to you to also respond.
Well, yeah, certainly. And really great question, right? To think about like staying engaged and being in the know. And as young people, like we don't talk a lot about networking sometimes in high school. As a student, trying to put yourself out there, especially the last few years have been a little bit different, to say it mildly. And if you can take the control and the autonomy to just try and start doing those networking things, especially the technology sector, the people in the sector are awesome. They really are. Everybody is keen and wants to help and has great ideas. And the more and more I get out there, the more that's evident. And Cathy, something I wanted to ask you about is civic tech, because I see that as a good place that our school, our students could be involved in. And I know the Moncton chapter. And anyway, that is an area that. How do we give back to our community as well? And how do we use tech for those good things?
Yeah, and the civic tech movement is really grown. There's chapters in Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton. I went to the meeting Tuesday night in St. John, and it provides students with an opportunity to volunteer to help build applications for a lot of the not-for-profits, but it's a way for you to get connected and for you to build your skills. So if you look at when we send you the slides, like find some people in the sector or who are doing work that you go, hey, Introhive's a startup. I'd love to learn more about startups. How can I find out more? And if you find Adam or Mr. Pope, they will find the people to help you. That's a given. But there are forums for you to get engaged, and you cannot start too soon to do that engagement, because part of what you can do right now is work on if you're super keen on tech, work on tech skills on your own, but you also need to work on language skills and presentation skills and working in a team and becoming more aware of timelines and deadlines. And those are all skills that are incredibly important to take with you to university or college when you're studying, but they're called essential skills in the workplace. No one works alone. We all work in teams. So building those skills now and finding forums to do that is super important.
And one thing I might add to it as well, Mr. Pope and Cathy, is that for those most keen students right now that love technology, we are really close to being able to promote the enrollment in things like IBM's Skills Build, as well as the Cisco Networking Academy. So there's a whole host of like online courseware that students could get enrolled in for free in New Brunswick to really start pursuing some various passions that they might have. Because maybe you don't know what your passion is yet, but you need to dabble a little bit when it comes to the coding side of things. Or are you into cybersecurity? Are you into analytics? And like, right? It's just, it's going to be there. And I'm excited to work with Mr. Pope and others to get that message out there and to find the students thinking about if there's any students here in grade 11, right? Personal interest courses in grade 12. You could take a full period a day to work on a special project that might have something to do with tech as well. So it's exciting times in the province, I think.
Absolutely. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I can't wait to see. We'll connect a bit more, Mr. Benet, and see if we can get some of these kids going on it. I can't wait. I do have a question, I guess. There was one more question back there, though. Maybe we should do with that first. Was it, Ian, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Could you say it nice and loudly?
Yeah, sure. So in your journey to where you're now, I was wondering what were some of the best business decisions that you've made there? I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, Sophie, do you want to answer that question, Sophie?
I guess for me, like obviously I've stayed at my company, and that has helped me because I've got so much knowledge of just the company. So like I've been growing my developer skills at the same time, but my internal knowledge has definitely helped me progress in my career a lot faster than if I would have jumped between companies, I think. So I think just staying with the company I had, because it was so great, has just like been what has really allowed me to grow my career so quickly.
I would answer it and say, I've had jobs I really didn't enjoy, and I've had jobs that I loved, but I was always thinking about two things. One, what set of skills can I learn by doing this work? And how is it going to help me for my next opportunity? And that keeps me focused because I always thought about, I need to create a toolkit of skills that I want to be building throughout my career. So that was super important. The second thing, there's three things. The second thing is, don't worry about the job title. It doesn't matter what the title of the job is. Think about what the work is, what you're passionate about, what you want to get good at. And that is what's the most important thing. And thirdly is surround yourself with good people. Like, you have to work in an environment where you can come to work, whether that's working in your home office like me at this moment, or if it's going into an office. And I think Sophie's in the office based on what I'm seeing, and Sophie, the other Sophie's working at home. You need to surround yourself and work for an organization that you can bring your whole self to work, so that you can be your best at what you're trying to do. You can contribute, your opinion matters. And when you surround yourself by good people, like, work is fun and it's enjoyable. And, you know, Sophie talked briefly about this, but the company that she works for raised about $120 million last year. And they're one of the best financially backed software companies in New Brunswick. So when you get to work in that kind of an environment, you're learning about software and data and development and all of those, but it's a global company and it's selling software around the world. And you're building all of these tools in your toolkit that you can take with you to another company, or if you want to start a company. So you really want to work with people who've got cool ideas that you can bring your whole self to and you can contribute. And that to me is just a beautiful marriage of, I get to do things I'm passionate about while building skills at the same time and making a difference.
Yeah, I guess I'll add one more thing. Like, I've always found that once you get very good at something, that's when you have to start looking for something else. Like, you got to build a new skill, and that's how you just keep growing and keep building your career.
And wearing my teacher hat really quick too, I would chime in and say, like, we think we're talking about coding here a lot today and programming, but then there's a whole other set of technical skills that you can begin amassing, right? Troubleshooting hardware, operating in systems, networking type stuff. But then there's like digital creative arts. Being a graphic designer or having ability to do a little bit of graphic design or video editing is never going to be harmful in your career pathway or in education. And the better you get at using the technology, the little bit easier schooling could be, because you know how to, you're quicker to do the research, you're quicker to put together a slide deck, you're quicker to do an essay. Those are all skills that will enhance your life as a student and make you, I think, Cathy, more employability skills, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually going along with what my question was. You know, if you were hired as a developer, I guess, those interpersonal skills, how critical are they at different levels? Because I know a project manager would obviously have to be able to read and work with people in different ways, because obviously there's a lot of personalities out there. There's a lot of different skill sets. Some people can, when we think of programmers, sometimes we envision, you know, the guy just behind the monitor, just smashing away at the keyboard in his own world, not having to really work with others and communicate a lot, but communication is a huge skill that I think a lot of people can definitely work on. They can't just be one-sided or one-dimensional. They've got to be good at a lot of things, right?
Yeah, so like here at Introhive, like there is no one developer, you just do work. Like everybody's on a team, you work as a team. Yes, you will code by yourself, but you're trying to fill goals for the whole team. Like it's not just your code that matters, it's the code of everybody else and how it all collects together and ends up as an end product. So definitely need to be able to work as a team. Like we have every day, we have it's just a 15-minute meeting, but we always make sure to update, and then we have bi-weekly meetings where we talk about like what went well these last couple weeks, what didn't go well, and we're constantly improving how we work as a team. So those communication skills definitely help. And then, I mean, even as a coder, like you have to be able to code in ways that communicate what you did. Like making readable code is a skill that not everybody has and is super valuable.
Sophie Leonard, you worked in sales at a software company. How valuable were communication skills for you when you were trying to sell Dash Hudson software to companies around the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when you were talking about like the title doesn't matter and you have to just learn the skills while you're in that position, I was thinking so much about my time working in sales and how I didn't want to work in sales. It wasn't my passion. And I just looked at it, I was like, okay, I'm working for a software company. I get to communicate with brands globally. I get to communicate with directors, social media managers from all different organizations, fashion, food and bev, consumer electronics, like all sorts of different brands. And I have to take this opportunity as a way for me to improve my communication skills, my way to understand how the hierarchy in an organization works, who's the decision maker in an organization that I have to sell to, and how do I get to that person? So there's a lot of different learnings working in sales, and you're showcased a lot in a very short amount of time.
So the only thing I would add, those are two great answers, is that no one works alone. So the idea of, that coder with a hoodie sitting in the back in a basement, like that's all baloney. Like that doesn't exist. Coders build pieces. Nice, Mr. Pope. I love that. Coders build pieces that have to all come together to work. And it's built under a software architecture plan. And it's no different than me being the CEO of an organization. I need to have a plan with people with the right skills. And we're trying to solve problems all the time. And we can't find solutions if we can't talk to people about what the problems are and then translate those into something that we can help build a solution for. So communication skills can be worked on by working at McDonald's or teaching a course, volunteering at a learning center. And like, there's so many ways, and employers really, really notice the things that you do to be building up your skills. And my only thing is just try and work on these skills, but by doing something that you love to do, because it's really hard to work on things if you don't like it. It's painful. It becomes a chore. I don't want to do that. I know it's going to look good on my resume. Don't do it. Like, find another path to build those skills. But those skills around critical thinking, decision making, design, as Mr. Benet said, those are crucial skills for any job you do. Even if you don't want to work in the tech industry, you need those skills for anything you do. So find ways to work on them doing something you like. How's that, Mr. Pope? Did that help?
That is awesome. Because it's just like with COVID and everything we've had the last few years, I find it's it's becoming a little more important, I guess, for us to focus on those things, face-to-face conversations, learning how to communicate your ideas clearly, and also selling yourself, right? You're not just selling a product. You got to invite people in, right? Make them feel welcome. And I think those are things that you can learn in every aspect of life. But doing that kind of stuff, even with strangers, is McDonald's, like you said, is those are awesome little spots where you can do that, because those are the kinds of jobs a lot of these kids have right now. We're running out of time.
I
Sorry.
worked at McDonald's all through high school and most of universities. So,
There you go.
for example,
I worked
very
at
relevant.
Wendy's. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Mr. Pope, how many, maybe show of hands, how many people in the room are really considering tech as a career? Super
hands
keen
up.
to understand that. That's awesome. Let me tell you, that's awesome. It's so important. And, you know, we want to make sure we're giving you information to help you make a great decision forward. So find us. We're here to help Mr. Pope, and Mr. Benet knows that. We talk to him every other day.
Great. Thank you so much. We are running out of time. We're going to be in a transition to our next period in a couple minutes. And we just want to thank you for all the information, your advice. I can't, again, thank you enough, because we need to hear from people in the industry, right? I'm a school teacher for the past 20 plus years. I'm a bit disconnected to what happens in your offices, and it's better to hear from the horse's mouth, as they say, right? So this is amazing. And again, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Benet. You're the best, helping us organize it. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Pope, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.